There is good news to celebrate if you're a corporate or business leader. According to The Atlantic, job satisfaction numbers have risen dramatically over the past 2 decades. The portion of the population who indicate that they are completely satisfied has risen steadily from 41% in 2001 to 55% in 2019, and despite the onset of the pandemic in 2020, The Atlantic reports that 89% of the American workforce are at least somewhat or completely satisfied with their job situation. Therefore, the question is, how do we continue this encouraging trend? Will Schirmer may have the answer to this intriguing question. He's an HR and talent management executive with more than 2 decades of international and domestic experience. He's the author of The Leadership Core and a passionate advocate for HR talent management, personal growth, and fulfillment endeavors. He joined me this week to have a discussion about diversity, equity, and inclusion at work, and how executives can ensure that all employees continue to hold value. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Absolutely. So, Will, if you're ready, I'll take a moment to welcome you to the program. And I'm excited to speak with you this morning all about personal and professional growth. Great to be with you this morning. And thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
So, Will, I know that you have spent more than 2.5 decades in the field of personal leadership growth and a little bit on the human resource side as well. So I'm also curious to ask you about inclusion in terms of creating an environment for individuals with disabilities to succeed at work. I'm curious.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that leadership needs to do in order to make sure that the work environment is fulfilling is to have a diverse workforce, is to make sure that individuals are included in the team that bring a wide variety of backgrounds, skills, and experience, and to make sure that through how they lead, that they ensure that the opinions of their people and their thoughts and the contributions are listened to, are heard. And of course, people at work want to not just be passengers in their work experience, they want to author their work experience. They want to be part of the story, part of the narrative in succeeding at work. So this is very important. When you have diversity and you have inclusion, you have best practice that's put into place. You have better ideas and better practices that are put into place that benefit everyone, including the organization and the customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And Will, as you know, fulfillment at work can take on many different forms for many different people. But I'm wondering your thoughts on creating an environment of camaraderie and commonality at work. How do you think we can achieve fulfillment at work for the masses?
Yeah, I think, there's a couple of things there. One, and I'm a big fan of servant leadership and stewardship. It's about leaders making sure that they get to know their people well and they understand what their people's motivations are and what their aspirations are. What do they seek as far as their long-term goals? What sorts of things motivate them beyond beyond money, beyond the external things that we can give them, what are the things that really drive them? It could be competition, it could be personal growth and learning, it might be inclusion and affiliation. There are lots of things that drive us at work, and good leaders need to get to know that in their people and need to use that to craft a more welcoming environment for everyone. So that's a big part of it. And I think the other is leaders just remembering that they serve the people who serve the customers. Leaders don't sit above people, they work alongside others, and they're really there as a tool for other people to help them succeed. So I think those things are very important, and the leader sets the tone for the culture. The culture is either one that's positive and mutually supportive, or it's something else. So leaders have a responsibility. And I think the other thing is that team members have a responsibility too, to make sure that they are not just good at their job, but they're good colleagues as well, that they're positive and supportive.
Absolutely. And well, tell me, I'm curious about your thoughts on diversity of perspective at work or diversity of thought at work, and how that can also help increase productivity as well.
Yeah, it certainly increases productivity by increasing innovation. When you have people from diverse backgrounds who have very different thoughts, skills, and backgrounds to bring to the table, what you have is active debate. You have debate, you have discussion. Sure, you have disagreement from time to time, but this is how best practice and innovation is put into place. We don't want people who all think and act alike, because oftentimes that leads to a sense of groupthink or complacency, where organizations don't innovate and they aren't effective at changing in order to meet the changing needs of their marketplace. And workplaces need to reflect the diversity of the customers that they do business with as well. So no doubt, with more diversity, you have greater innovation, and you have the ability for people to bring in ideas that make the workplace more productive and also a more inviting place for everyone to be.
And well, I'm curious, how do you personally define effective leaders, and what do you think are the key principles for effective corporate leadership?
Yeah, that's a tough question. It's a really good question. I don't think that there is one magic recipe, as it were, to leading, because leaders have to adapt to the working culture and the situation. But in saying that, I think that there are some principles, as you've mentioned, that leaders can use to be effective and that work for most situations. And the first is leading with character. And I described several different aspects of character in my book, The Leadership Core. And certainly it's about integrity. You have to make sure that as a leader that you are honest and forthright with people, and that you create a leadership tone where integrity must be held to. Also, things like responsibility and accountability are important in leading, as well as humility, the sense that you have to keep your ego in check as a leader. There's other good practices that I espouse as well, and one is the ability to develop teams and to recruit effectively. The other is servant leadership and stewardship, and the ability to manage change and develop people and manage performance effectively. These are the things that I outline as core competencies for good leadership.
Yeah, well, and I'm also wondering your thoughts. I always believe that collaboration breeds creativity, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on the positive benefits of collaboration and drawing from different sources to solve problems and create effective solutions.
Yeah, this is so important, isn't it? And it's a great quality to look for and to have in people in teams. And I think it's understated. As leaders, we want to make sure that we hire good team members first. That's more important initially than technical skills. You can teach skills, technical skills. They can be taught over weeks and months. But the ability to have people who are cooperative and mutually supportive and positive isn't something that's easy to teach. And it is incredibly important. So having people who have the ability to collaborate well, not only within their teams, but across teams is really important. And to understand that while we might gravitate towards certain people more than another, we might like certain people and not necessarily like others at work, we have the responsibility as employees to work productively with everyone. So this idea of collaboration is incredibly important, and it's something to look for in team members.
Absolutely. And Will, I know you have a degree in behavioral science, so I'm wondering your thoughts on the dynamic of emotion and the difference between men and women, because women are historically more emotional in terms of showing their emotions, in terms of crying or being more vocal with their emotions. I'm wondering your thoughts on the differences in the dichotomy between men and women displaying their emotions both in work and during their personal lives as well.
Well, I think that's a very individual issue. Frankly, I see that more as an individual personality issue than I do one based on gender. And what I would say is it's the ability to gain emotional intelligence and self-awareness. There is a saying that your success in life is 10% about what happens to you and 90% about how you react to situations. And so I think this is about emotional control. But whatever the situation with individuals, it's okay to come to work with emotion. As a matter of fact, we want people to come with feelings. It's those feelings that we harness as leaders, positive feelings, hopefully, in order to get work done. And we also have to realize that we have to manage emotions effectively at work as leaders as well. Of course, people are going to come in with emotions. And I think that this aspect of emotional intelligence and self-awareness, to know what triggers strong emotions, helps people grow personally and professionally, because then they are aware of those situations and they also can control it in a way that perhaps is more productive. So I see this as very much individually based and based on emotional intelligence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Will, you brought up your book, The Leadership Core, earlier in our conversation. And I'm curious to ask you about the book and all about the messages you hope to convey through your written work.
Yeah, so the book really stemmed from some leadership development programs that I had instituted in other organizations over time. And I think probably we all feel like we may have a book in us, something to write and get out and share with the masses, so to speak. And the book really is about those general competencies that I see as successful for good leadership in most cases. And they are leading with character, the ability to recruit well and build teams, managing performance is, of course, the heart of what we do as leaders, and also managing change, servancy and stewardship, and developing people. So I talk a little bit more about those main competencies in the book. And I think it's important for us as leaders to remember that we have to capture people's hearts and minds in order to get their hands and feet moving. So it's important to make sure that we understand our people and that we understand we work alongside them and don't sit above them as leaders. They're colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone has value in the workplace, so don't they?
Absolutely. And it's a leader's responsibility to see how we can maximize that value and make sure that people have a fulfilling experience at work as well.
Absolutely. And Will, I'm also fascinated to ask you about your own personal non-negotiables to happiness. Is there something that you personally won't compromise when it comes to achieving your own personal fulfillment?
Yeah, I think integrity is a big one. not enough people really sit down and think about what their core values, beliefs, and principles are. They probably have a sense of what they are, but really reflecting on those and understanding that the more you live in harmony with them, the more happy you're going to be. And for me, of course, they're based on certain things like integrity, not lying, cheating, or stealing, and making sure that as a leader, you set that tone in your teams. Other things for me include accountability, making sure that you have a strong sense of personal accountability for both your behavior and your performance, and that you hold your hand up when you make mistakes. You say, I'm sorry, and you understand that you don't know it all. I think the other is putting your ego in check. And that's a learned process throughout our lives, but the ability to be humble and to make sure that you understand that everyone has a contribution and you can learn from everyone. I think that's important too.
Yeah, diversity of thought and perspective goes a long way, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
And Will, I'm curious, outside of the office, buddy, what do you like to do for fun? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I do a little exercise. I do run as well, sort of short and middle distance running. I like to motorcycle. I've got a couple motorcycles and like to get out on the road. And I love travel. I've been very fortunate in that I've got to travel extensively as a part of both my personal interests and also at work. So I love traveling, the ability to experience different cultures and understand the wide variety of perspectives people have to bring to the table, I think is really enriching too. So I absolutely love travel.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. And I have to tell you, Will, I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy, simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. And one of the tenets that I live my life by is always active. I always try to spend at least 10 minutes of my day being physically active because, I'm reminded of something my grandmother tells me. She tells me if I don't use my muscles, I lose them. So I always try to stay active as well. So.
Absolutely. I think that's a great tenet to live by. And I try and do the same. As you say, get up and try and be active every day, exercise both my body and my mind.
Yeah, it's a way to bring positivity to every aspect of your life, isn't it?
It certainly is. And I think we all feel a little bit better after we've engaged in some exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, my final question for you this morning has to do with your own personal unprofessional legacy and how you might want that to be defined.
Yeah, that is a great question. And I think that's a very insightful question. And it's one I think leaders have to ask themselves. For me personally, I hope that the people that I've interacted with have been touched positively as a result, that I've left the place, whether it's inside of work or outside of work. I've left my colleagues and the community in which I live, hopefully a little bit better through the work that I've done and through my interactions with other people. And the other is I like to make people smile. So I think you've got to go through life with a sense of humor and try and take the positive from all situations. So I think that's another thing too. Hopefully people will think that I made them laugh just a little and also left the place better as a result of my being here.
Yeah, life is a little bit lighter with laughter, isn't it?
It certainly is, yes.
Absolutely. And Will, tell me, if people want to get connected with you, what's the best way they can accomplish that goal?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways. One is certainly through LinkedIn. I also have a website, which is willschirmerofficial.com, which keeps people up on my books and some other activity. Also, I am on Instagram as Will Schirmer Official and Twitter as Will Schirmer 1. So there's a couple of ways to reach out, and I'd welcome any contact from your listeners.
Fantastic. Well, Will, I appreciate your work in the space of leadership and growth, and I want to thank you for being here this morning. It's most appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and I've really enjoyed our conversation.